Sarnia, I'm Katie Horvath. This is called Into the City. I'm here today with Matthew McDonald. Thanks for coming in today, Matt. Really appreciate it. Matt is looking for your votes. He's running in the upcoming municipal election as hoping to be your next city councillor. So for those that don't know you, Matt, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run for council this year?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Matt, obviously. I have lived in Sarnia since '96. I was originally born in Ottawa. Came here because honestly my family was given a few choices between Winnipeg, Sarnia, Yellowknife, and I believe one other city. But I think it was Halifax because my father was transferred for work. And we had never heard of Sarnia. My father is from Winnipeg. My mother didn't want to live there. My mother is from Halifax. My father didn't want to live there. Apparently we decided as a family not to live in Yellowknife, especially with younger kids. I was 12 at the time, or just under. And again, Sarnia was in Ontario, and it wasn't that much of a change, so that's how we ended up here. As far as what got me into politics, I've always had a bit of an interest since probably high school. I think I did, I may not have done all the work in my French class, but I think I was always interested in what my teacher had to say about both provincial and federal Canadian politics, and then she also did a great job relating that to how it affects you. So I've always been interested in how the decisions that people make kind of affect how everybody runs their life. And that's really what brought me into politics. Now, of course, it's been a long time for me in Sarnia. I've debated running probably for almost 10 years now. Shortly out of college, just really, I didn't think the city was progressing. Being in finance for a little while, it just looked like, I mean, while it was a great place on paper to live, somebody who's younger like myself, there wasn't much to do, and there was no real initiative by any organized group in order to get youth involved in Sarnia, or to keep youth here. Mm-hmm. So that's been something that's bugged me. So it is something that I do plan on focusing on a little bit, but again, not the biggest part of me. Mm-hmm. If that works for you.
Yeah. So why do you think that you would make a good representative for the people of Sarnia?
Simple. I listen. Again, if I can, I'll stop talking and listen.
Okay, great answer. So at this point in the interview, I'd like to kind of talk to the candidates about their reflections on the current council. So in general, on the 2014 to 2018 term, could you comment on council's performance, maybe a couple things they could have done better and a couple things that they did do well?
All right, so let's start with what they might have done better. Obviously, I'm sure everybody's aware of the big turmoil that's gone down with, I guess, decorum on council, behavior of councillors towards the mayor, behavior of the mayor towards members of city staff. I would have hoped, at least if I were on council, that it wouldn't have gotten to that point, that hopefully council or staff would have been able to resolve that issue without it being some nationally publicized crisis. So a little bit of personality conflict there was probably what happened. Is it good to get it out of the way? Probably. Nobody should be in a hostile workplace, be it as an elected official or be it as a hired employee. As far as what they've done well, I do think that there has been some slow movement to modernizing the city. It looks to me like the IT department was stuck in about 1979. I think we're finally coming up to about 1997, which is fantastic. But of course, we still got about 30 years to go. I'm sure a lot of people have noticed all the bike paths near, especially if you live near Colburn Road and that area, and even before that, some signage that went up on some of the side streets. So making the city a little more walkable and bike friendly is paramount to keeping youth here, I think. There's also been a little bit of an update to Sarnia Transit, and I do think that was something that was well needed. Of course, there are things that could do better. Personally, I do believe in density. So of course, density only works if there is proper transit and other incentives to keep people, youth here, whatever it may be.
Okay. So in terms of public input, there has been some improvement. They've introduced the SMART surveys, they've done some public info sessions. I'm just wondering if you could comment in general on your thoughts on whether or not you're satisfied with the amount of public input the current council gets, or if that would be something that you'd look to increase or decrease.
I think it's a great first step. It's great to have a lot of public input, but without an informed public, how do you really have an informed opinion? One of the things that I really strive to focus on is complete transparency. You have a public that really is very educated in this city. We're very lucky that way. And the best way to use that would be to tell them, or basically to inform them of why council is making a decision. Then put out a survey to see if you think, if the public generally thinks that that survey is, or that decision is the right one, or even better, put out the information before the survey and then let council decide based on input from the survey. So what I haven't seen is that information coming to the public before there's a survey out.
Right, that's a good point.
So that, I think, is something that needs to happen quite soon.
So more education in addition to more input.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Right. So there's obviously been quite a few divisive topics in the last 4 years. You touched on one of them. Another one was Centennial Park. And of course the criticism for that mostly has been about going over budget. So something that I kind of like to ask candidates, because I do know that this is at the heart of a lot of people in Sarnia. Are you satisfied with how that project was handled? And would you support an audit of that? About the going over budget?
Well, you have a council that obviously has to try and account to taxpayers. So their initial, I guess, decision to go with a contractor that came in with the lowest bid was probably not necessarily the right decision, as I mean, hindsight's 20/20. But it was probably at least the best intentioned decision. Again, going with a contractor that had no experience doing certain things. So I think the issue in this case was the contractor themselves had no prior experience with a boat ramp, and I don't think they had much experience with retaining walls. And we had a huge retaining wall and a pretty crucial boat ramp that were neglected, essentially. So maybe the lowest bidder is not always the best option. I think because I do have a few friends who are musicians locally as well, I think they probably should have gotten a little more input as far as the Agora is concerned. I mean, it looks great, but when you're a musician, yes, you're used to playing under bright lights, but the brightest light that you can play under is the sun, and when it's sunset in the late summer and the sun is shining right at you, you can't see a crowd. You can't see your instrument. So the feedback that I've gotten from some is that the Agora itself maybe should have been shielded or facing a slightly different direction. So of course, again, I understand why the decision was probably made without taking that into consideration as far as noise is concerned. But there are other usability issues that just weren't thought of.
Right. Okay, fair enough. So how do you think we could restore the trust between the taxpayers and City Hall?
Yeah, that would be a tough question, wouldn't it? That would probably be part of transparency. If you can inform somebody as far as the rationale as to why a decision is being made, I think they're more likely to trust it. Whether you can convince them it's the right decision then becomes on you as a politician, but really getting that information out there, I think first before making a decision is pretty important, and hopefully again would restore trust.
Right. Okay. So at this part in the interview, I'd just like to kind of focus on your campaign and some of the issues that you're specifically trying to bring to City Hall. So we can start with, if you could just tell me in general about your platform.
All right. So I don't have a platform written down on paper yet, but what again I have been focusing on is obviously transparency. Another thing that I am quite big on is responsible spending. So I do have a background in finance, but specifically my job was to teach people how to plan, and also to get the information across that spending $100 now may save you $300 in the future. But spending $50 now on the same thing because it costs less may end up costing you another $300 in the future.
Right.
The lowest bid is not always the best bid. There has to be a value proposition. Another thing that I do really think the city needs to kind of focus on, and I have seen council currently start to move in this direction, is a lot more green initiatives. We've kind of neglected a lot of city parks in some ways. We've definitely neglected a lot of green transportation and walkability options. As far as improving that is concerned, I think council has done a fairly decent job. It's just more so expansion on basically the groundwork that's already been laid at this point. I know I have a few other things that I would love to talk about, whether they come to me in future. I'm sure I'll put them out, maybe in this interview, maybe, well, for sure on social media.
Okay. So in terms of the city of Sarnia and its people, what do you think are the 3 most pressing issues that just the everyday citizen faces?
This is one that I've done a lot of thinking on, and I don't know 3 specifics, just because there are so many people in the city that are so different. You have a lot of people with minimal transportation that feel like they're stuck in town with no viable inter or intra-city transportation. You have a lot of people as well who are younger, so under 40, we'll say, and they don't see a lot of things really for them until fairly recently. You have a lot of people like myself who are relatively active, who again are starting to see some improvement, but we're still not seeing any improvement when it comes to recreational facilities, even within city parks. If you wanted to play a sport like soccer in the winter, you're stuck doing it in the snow, which isn't always the most fun. Again, I think a lot of people will say that their property taxes can be an issue. I personally, of course, responsible spending and responsible taxation is very important, but I don't think that would be something that I would focus on per se, but it's come up a lot. Yeah. Really, to put the three top out there is too hard, just because there are so many small issues. Again, I can come up with water treatment. So some people believe that fluoridation is an issue. Others are finding out that they live in an older part of town and there's probably higher lead levels. So I'm sure I probably fall into that category. Mm-hmm. So there are things that should probably be on a list, but then at that point they have to be prioritized as far as the greater good. So public health would be a top priority rather than recreation per se. Again, public health would probably take precedence over lowering of taxes if it were possible. So, right there again, too many small issues. Well, too many. I guess scattered issues is more the word that I'm looking for, to really focus on 3 or 4. Again, going on, city spending in the last couple of years has been a little excessive with no value for it. That's something that has to be reined in. Again, I could ramble.
I understand what you mean. There's a lot of little ones in addition to just the main pillar or two. So we did discuss just kind of youth and how there's not a lot to do for people. You're defining it as younger people under 40, which fair enough. Do you have any ideas of something that we could do as a city to try to work towards retaining the young people that we do have?
Yeah, so that would probably be any kind of incentive when it comes to attracting business. So I know there has been a little bit of a push towards the tech sector in the city, which is fantastic because that does tend to attract a more youthful or even a younger employee base. So of course we do have the college here, which does attract young people, but there are, I don't know, there's a perception both internally and externally that Sarnia is a great place to die. Yeah. you come here.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
You come here. I mean, it's a great place to live as well. But there's really not much to do. So we'll even go younger. So when I was again from my perspective, I wasn't born here, but I was raised here. And for those who come from out of town, I think they see a lot more of what Sarnia does have to offer. I don't know of any city anywhere really that has such a beautiful freshwater beach. I believe that's an asset that is kind of being underused. We have a great waterfront in general, which recently there has been controversy there. Previously, and I know, or I believe that in future there has been great festivals that have taken place, but have fallen by the wayside due to mismanagement on previous councils' parts. Right, so you have pollution in a large city park that had to be taken care of. It may not have been taken care of in the best manner, but it was taken care of. As far as retaining youth, I think business has done a relatively good job so far, and it is improving. There are a lot of businesses that are focusing and building a more youthful culture, And I think the city itself should, through whatever means they have, be it the Chamber of Commerce, be it the Economic Partnership, and similar organizations, really try to incentivize or at least advertise what we have to offer, rather than or even to dispel the myth that not only is it a great place to come when you are getting near to the end of life, but it is a great place to come to start your family and live.
Okay, great. So last question I have for you, and I ask this to everybody, why should I vote for you?
Well, I'm young, I'm pretty. So of course we've gone through a lot of things that kind of concern me. If those are the concerns that really bite at you, of course that's what I'm going to work for. Again, you can find out more via social media as far as what bites me and what I'm going to work towards improving. So really that would be the only way that I could earn your vote, is simply just making sure that we agree on topics. Now, as far as how I will act on council, again, that listening skill, that mediation skill that I've learned through both current jobs where I'm in a position where I teach, previous jobs where I was in a position both of authority as well as a position of sales, and current volunteer work with organizations that help children and those with special needs. Just provides me a great tool, or more so a toolkit, when it comes to finding what the actual issue is and trying to get a solution worked out, either through my own creativity or leading people into a solution through their own creativity.
Okay, great. So I did want to thank you for coming in, and I just want to give you the opportunity, if there's anything that I haven't touched on, if there's anything that you maybe wanted to add that we didn't get to talk about today, what's your kind of final message, final takeaway for the people of Sarnia?
Of course, really focusing on what we already have and improving it would be what we need to focus on. We do have a lot of great assets here that really just need to be utilized. We have a very educated population. We have fantastic park facilities. We have a great opportunity as far as education and attracting newcomers to the city is concerned. It's just that outside the city it's not being recognized, and we need to work towards getting that information out there. And that's really the only thing I would have to say above and beyond what we haven't touched or what will be touched in the future via either any of your sites or my own personal.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you guys very much for watching. Again, this has been Matthew McDonald, looking for a seat in the upcoming municipal election for our next city councillor position. So if you like what he has to say, certainly vote for him online, October 11th through to October 22nd, election day. And again, I'm Katie Horvath. This is Into the City, and thanks for watching.